So Hunter transferred to our school last August. He was cute, smart, and actually nice without trying too hard. I got this massive crush on him right away and told my friend Valeria about it. She was super supportive when I told her. She was like, OMG, you guys would be perfect together, and helped me figure out what to text him. We'd analyze his responses together, and she kept telling me I should go for it. I'd known Valeria since freshman year when we got paired for a biology project. We weren't like best friends or anything, but we hung out sometimes on weekends and had most of the same classes. She always seemed supportive, helping me with math homework, inviting me to parties, that kind of stuff. I totally trusted her, which makes everything that happened so much worse. Hunter and I started talking more by October. He'd wait for me after chem class, and we'd walk to lunch together. Nothing major, but I was seriously falling for him. Valeria kept asking for details about our conversations, which I thought was just her being a good friend. One time, he complimented my presentation in history class, and I literally texted Valeria from the bathroom immediately after. She replied with all these heart emojis and said, "He's definitely into you." She even helped me pick out my outfit for the next day. I spent like 2 hours trying on different sweaters while FaceTiming her. My mom noticed how much time I was spending getting ready for school and kept teasing me about having a crush. I didn't tell her about Hunter, though. My parents are the type who'd want to meet him immediately and analyze everything, which would have been mortifying. In November, I finally got brave enough to ask him to a movie. Valeria helped me draft the text, telling me exactly what to say. I was so nervous that I had to close my eyes when I hit send. He took forever to respond and just said, "Sorry, was busy on Sunday night." Then Monday at school, he basically ignored me. I was confused until Wednesday when Tiffany came up to me at my locker asking if I was stalking Hunter. I laughed it off until she told me Valeria had been telling everyone I was obsessed with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend? I had no idea they were even talking. That afternoon, I saw them together in the parking lot. He had his arm around her waist. When she saw me looking, she whispered something to him, and they both laughed. I felt like such an idiot. I couldn't even focus in class the rest of the day. My English teacher, Mr. Benson, asked if I was feeling okay because I kept staring out the window instead of participating in the discussion. I mumbled something about not sleeping well, and he left me alone. That night, I couldn't stop crying. My brother Rodney heard me through the wall and knocked on my door asking if I was okay. I told him it was just period stuff to make him go away. I didn't want anyone to know how stupid I felt. I confronted Valeria the next day at lunch. I was shaking so much I could barely hold my tray. I asked her how long she'd been dating Hunter, and she just casually told me they'd been together since September. The whole time she was helping me text him, they were already dating. When I asked why she pretended to help me if she knew I had no chance, she just shrugged and said she thought it was better than telling me to back off. She didn't even seem to think she'd done anything wrong. I just stood there with my lunch tray, feeling like everyone was watching us. By Friday, the rumors were everywhere. According to Valeria, I'd been desperately chasing Hunter even though I knew they were dating. She showed people our text conversations about him, twisting everything to make me look crazy. I started skipping lunch because I couldn't deal with the stares. My parents noticed I wasn't eating and started asking questions. I told them I was just stressed about upcoming tests. Dad even made my favorite pasta dinner that weekend to cheer me up, which just made me feel worse for lying. My friend Ruby sent me screenshots of a group chat where Valeria and her friends were talking about my obsession. Hunter was in it too, calling me that weird girl who wouldn't leave him alone. I wanted to die. I deleted all my social media apps from my phone for the weekend. Mom kept asking why I was so quiet, and I just blamed it on period cramps again. I spent most of Saturday in bed watching TikTok and ignoring texts. My friend Jess invited me to a movie, but I made up an excuse about family obligations. I couldn't risk running into Valeria or Hunter. December sucked. Someone wrote "stalker" on my locker. My lab partner Sam asked to switch because he heard things. When I tried telling Tiffany my side, she cut me off saying Valeria had warned her I'd make up stuff. In chemistry, we had to do group work, and nobody wanted me in their group. The teacher had to assign me to a team, and they barely spoke to me the whole period. One girl literally moved her chair away from me like I had some contagious disease. The holiday dance was coming up, and I had already bought a ticket before all this happened. I ended up giving it to my brother's friend and telling my parents I had too much homework to go. They were concerned about me becoming antisocial, but didn't push it. I spent winter break hiding from everyone. My cousin came to visit for Christmas, and even though we usually get along great, I barely talked to her. My aunt kept asking my mom if I was going through something, and I overheard them talking about teenage depression one night when they thought I was asleep. When school started again in January, I tried to keep my head down, but Valeria kept making it worse. She and Hunter would make out right in front of me. She'd text me stuff like, "Hunter thought your outfit was funny today," then deny sending anything. My dad sat me down one weekend and asked what was going on. He thought maybe I was using drugs or something. I almost laughed at how wrong he was. I ended up telling him I was just stressed about college applications, even though those were still months away. He seemed relieved it wasn't drugs and offered to help me research schools, which made me feel even more guilty about lying. In February, someone made a fake Instagram with my photo that sent creepy messages to Hunter. Everyone assumed it was me. I got called to the counselor's office and they called my parents. I kept saying it wasn't me, but no one believed me. My mom had to leave work early to come to school for a meeting. She was so confused and embarrassed. The counselor showed us the messages and they were so cringe. Stuff like, "I dream about you every night and we're meant to be together." My mom kept saying, "This doesn't sound like my daughter at all." But the counselor just gave her this pitying look like she was in denial. When we got home, Mom tried to have a heart-to-heart about healthy relationships and obsession. I ended up screaming that I didn't do it and slamming my door. We barely spoke for days after that. The only person who still talked to me was Ruby's freshman sister, Yael. She believed me because Valeria had been mean to her before too. One day in March, I was at her house studying when she went to get snacks. Her Facebook was open on her laptop and I saw Valeria's name in a conversation with Ruby. I know I shouldn't have looked, but I couldn't help it. What I found made me sick. Valeria had told Hunter she was pregnant to keep him from breaking up with her. She wasn't pregnant at all. She was faking morning sickness, making up doctor's appointments, and had sworn Ruby to secrecy. There were messages where Ruby asked about ultrasound pictures Valeria had shown Hunter, and Valeria admitted she got them from Google. She straight up told Ruby she wasn't pregnant but needed Hunter to stay with her. I took pictures of the conversation with my phone while Yael was downstairs. I felt guilty for snooping, but also like I'd finally found proof that Valeria was a liar. When Yael came back, I told her what I saw. She wasn't even surprised. She said lots of people knew except Hunter, and Valeria had threatened anyone who might tell him. I went home that day feeling like I was carrying this huge secret. I couldn't focus on homework or even the shows I was watching. My mom asked if I was feeling okay because I barely touched dinner. I said I had a headache, which wasn't exactly a lie. My head was pounding from all the stress. I didn't know what to do with this information. Meanwhile, Valeria kept ruining my life. In April, she convinced our English teacher to move my seat because I was making her uncomfortable by looking at Hunter. My mom and dad argued about it one night when they thought I couldn't hear. Mom wanted me to start fresh somewhere else, but Dad said running away wouldn't solve anything and would teach me the wrong lesson. I sat at the top of the stairs listening to them fight about my future. Rodney found me there and sat down next to me. He's only 14, but sometimes he seems smarter than me. He asked if I was okay, and for some reason, I actually told him the truth about everything. The crush, Valeria's lies, the fake pregnancy, all of it. He just listened without interrupting, which was weird for him since he usually can't shut up. When I finished, he said Valeria sounded like a psycho, and I should tell Hunter the truth. I explained how no one would believe me and it would just make everything worse. He couldn't understand why I wouldn't just fight back. Then, Hunter posted this big prom proposal for Valeria on Instagram with the caption, "Can't wait to start our future with the mother of my child." Everyone was commenting congrats about the baby. I snapped. I made an anonymous email and sent Hunter all the screenshots from Ruby and Yael's conversation. I showed him the fake ultrasound matched with the Google image. I included details only Valeria would know. I felt sick after I sent it. I couldn't sleep that night, just staring at my ceiling, wondering if I'd made everything worse. My mom came in to check on me because my light was still on at 2 a.m. I pretended to have fallen asleep reading. 3 days later, everything exploded. Hunter confronted Valeria, and she admitted the pregnancy was fake. But she somehow turned it around and said I'd been plotting revenge because I was jealous. She claimed I catfished her to get her to reveal her secrets. Hunter broke up with her. But that just made things worse for me. People were grossed out by her lie, but even more disgusted by my obsessive investigation and cruel exposure of her personal stuff. Sam said in chem class that only a psycho would collect evidence for months just to destroy someone. Ruby confronted me about stealing conversations from her sister's computer. Even though Yael told her she showed me willingly, my phone blew up with texts from numbers I didn't even recognize, calling me a psycho stalker and worse. Someone made a fake Twitter account with my name that posted creepy, obsessive stuff. I showed my parents and they were horrified. Dad wanted to go to the police, but Mom said there was no way to prove who was behind it. Last week, Valeria's parents complained to the school. I got suspended for cyberbullying and creating a hostile environment. Hunter texted to thank me for telling him the truth, then blocked me on everything. My mom cried when the principal called about my suspension. Dad got so angry he had to leave the room during the meeting. When we got home, they argued again. Mom saying we should have switched schools when we had the chance. Dad saying the school was completely out of line, punishing me instead of Valeria. I locked myself in my room and put my headphones on so I wouldn't have to hear them fighting about me. Rodney slipped a chocolate bar under my door with a note saying, "This sucks, not your fault." It made me cry even harder. So I exposed someone who humiliated me and spread lies about me for months. I revealed a manipulation that was trapping someone in a relationship built on a huge lie. But now I'm the toxic one. I'm the villain. Is it ever okay to expose someone's secrets if they hurt you first? Because from where I'm standing, the answer seems to be no matter how justified you might be. Update. We'll post more tomorrow. A lot has happened since then. Update. Thanks for all your comments. Reading them made me feel less alone, even if I'm still a mess about everything. Here's what's been happening since my suspension. My parents are taking this totally differently. Mom keeps scheduling meetings with the principal and threatening to call lawyers if they don't fix my suspension. Dad's more quiet mad. He keeps saying the school is teaching me that standing up to liars gets punished. They're arguing constantly when they think I can't hear them. Mom thinks the school is handling everything wrong, but she also thinks I should have come to her before sending those screenshots to Hunter. Dad says I did the right thing exposing a liar, but he's worried about how this will affect my college applications. They both keep asking me if I'm okay, but in completely different tones. Mom all concerned and gentle, Dad trying to sound casual but obviously worried. They got my suspension reduced from 2 weeks to 1, but going back to school Monday was awful. People weren't just whispering anymore. They straight up walked away when I approached. My usual lunch table was suddenly full when I tried to sit down. I ended up eating in the bathroom stall that first day back. I know it's gross and pathetic, but I couldn't face the cafeteria again after that first rejection. I kept thinking about those scenes in movies where the outcast kid eats alone, except in movies they usually look all cool and unbothered. I just felt like crying the whole time. When I got home, Mom asked how my first day back was, and I lied and said it was fine. But then I went to the bathroom and threw up from the stress. Rodney heard me and knocked on the door asking if I was okay. I told him I maybe had food poisoning. He offered to make me toast, which was actually really sweet. The school counselor had the nerve to suggest I write Valeria an apology letter. When I said no way, she gave me this look like I was being difficult and said something about taking responsibility regardless of provocation. For what? Telling the truth? She gave me this worksheet about conflict resolution and empathy building to fill out. It had questions like, how might the other person feel about what happened? And what could you have done differently? I wanted to scream that Valeria was the one who should be filling this out, not me. I stuffed the worksheet in my backpack and never looked at it again. Meanwhile, Valeria's playing this perfectly. She's posting these sad captions on Instagram about healing from betrayal and learning who your real friends are. Her follower count is actually going up. She deleted all her pics with Hunter and replaced them with group shots of her surrounded by friends. The comments are all hearts and we love you messages. She even posted this long paragraph about forgiveness and how she's choosing to rise above the negativity. She never mentioned me by name, but everyone knew who she was talking about. My mom caught me crying while looking at Instagram and took my phone away for the night. She said social media was just making everything worse. She's probably right, but being disconnected just made me feel even more isolated. When I got back to school, I found out Ruby was telling everyone I manipulated Yael into showing me private conversations. According to her, I'd been plotting for months to find dirt on Valeria. Yael tried to defend me at first, but Ruby threatened to tell their parents about Yael's vaping if she didn't back up the story. Now Yael won't even look at me in the halls. I tried to talk to Yael between classes, but she literally turned and walked the other way. Later, she texted me saying she was sorry, but Ruby would make her life hell if she didn't go along with the story. She said their parents would kill her if they found out about the vaping, and Ruby had pictures for proof. I told her I understood, but it still hurt. The worst part is my parents started fighting about what to do. Mom thinks I should switch schools for senior year. Dad says that's letting the bullies win. They have these whispered arguments when they think I can't hear them. I heard Mom crying in their room after a particularly bad argument. I almost went in to comfort her, but I knew it would just make her feel worse to know I heard them fighting. Instead, I texted her a heart emoji with no explanation. She came to my room a few minutes later and just hugged me without saying anything. We both pretended not to notice we'd been crying. I feel so guilty for causing problems at home, too. My little brother Rodney is stuck in the middle, trying to make dumb jokes at dinner while Mom and Dad glare at each other. He's only 14 and shouldn't have to deal with this. He tried to cheer me up by showing me these ridiculous TikToks he made with his friends. They were actually pretty funny, and for a few minutes I forgot about all the drama. Then he asked if I wanted to be in one with him, and I realized I couldn't risk being on social media at all right now. The look of disappointment on his face made me feel even worse. 3 days after I went back to school, Hunter came up to my locker. He asked if we could talk somewhere private, so we went to the empty band room during lunch. I was scared someone would see us together and start more rumors, but also weirdly happy that he wanted to talk to me. He said he wanted to thank me for telling him the truth. He told me Valeria had him completely convinced. She'd even fake thrown up in front of him, disappearing into bathrooms to vomit. She showed him ultrasound photos with his last name edited onto them. He looked so embarrassed admitting how completely she'd fooled him. When I asked why he blocked me after thanking me, he said Valeria still had access to his phone and blocked me herself before he changed his passwords. He seemed genuinely sorry about that, which made me feel a little better. He told me Valeria had been telling people I photoshopped all the evidence, but he didn't believe it because the conversations had details from months ago that I couldn't have known. He said he was still processing everything and felt like an idiot for believing her. Things got awkward when he asked if I'd really been obsessed with him. I told him the truth. I had a crush on him, and Valeria knew because I told her. That's what made it hurt so much. He said Valeria told him I'd been stalking both of them since before they started dating. He looked genuinely shocked when I explained how Valeria had been helping me draft texts to him while they were secretly dating. I could see him putting the pieces together in his head, realizing just how manipulative she had been to both of us. After our talk, Hunter said he believed me, but we probably shouldn't be seen talking at school. He didn't want more drama. I understood, but it still hurt. He checked the hallway before leaving to make sure no one saw us together. That night, I broke down completely. Mom found me crying and sat with me for hours. I told her everything, not just the Hunter-Valeria stuff, but how lonely I've been, how I can't take the isolation anymore. She kept stroking my hair like she did when I was little, and for once, she didn't try to offer solutions or tell me everything would be okay. She just listened. She suggested I talk to her sister, my Aunt Kelly, who went through something similar in high school. I was skeptical. Adults always think their high school experiences relate to yours, but they're usually clueless. But I was desperate enough to try anything. I called Aunt Kelly the next day after school. I was nervous at first, but she was surprisingly cool about everything. She didn't give me any cheesy, it gets better speeches. She actually told me about how her best friend turned everyone against her senior year over a guy, and how she felt like her life was over. She said high school feels like the whole world when you're in it, but in a few years, none of this will matter. Easy for her to say when she's 38 with a job and family, but it did help a little to know she'd survived something similar. Aunt Kelly suggested I focus on the people who are still in my corner and ignore everyone else as much as possible. My grades are tanking because it's impossible to focus. Every time someone whispers in class, I'm convinced they're talking about me. I've started sitting in the back row whenever possible so I don't have to feel eyes on me from behind. On Wednesday, I overheard Tiffany saying Valeria might transfer schools because of the hostile environment I'd created. The irony is unreal. I wanted to scream that she was the one who created a hostile environment for me. That afternoon in gym class, someone accidentally hit me in the back with a volleyball. I'm pretty sure it was one of Valeria's friends, but I couldn't prove it. The gym teacher just told us to be more careful. My back had a red mark for hours afterward. When I got home, Rodney was waiting at the door looking weirdly excited. He said he had a plan to clear my name that involved creating a fake social media account to trick Valeria into admitting she lied. I shut that down immediately. The last thing I needed was to get caught creating fake accounts when that's what people were already accusing me of doing. He looked disappointed, but I explained that fighting fire with fire would just make everything worse. He grudgingly agreed, but said he still thought Valeria deserved karma. I told him karma apparently takes vacations when it comes to popular girls. Things got weird on Thursday when Hunter texted asking if we could meet. I was nervous, but agreed. My brother Rodney insisted on coming with me and sitting nearby, just in case. It was kind of sweet, even if his protective act was ridiculous since he's younger than me. He wore a baseball cap pulled low like he was some kind of undercover agent and kept scanning the room dramatically. I had to tell him multiple times to stop staring at Hunter and act normal. He ordered a complicated frappuccino thing with extra whipped cream and then complained it was too sweet. The whole thing would have been funny if I wasn't so stressed about meeting Hunter. Hunter looked better than at school. He apologized for not standing up for me sooner. He said he'd been confused and embarrassed about the fake pregnancy. He kept fidgeting with his coffee cup. He told me he felt stupid for falling for Valeria's lies. He said the more he thought about it, the more red flags he could see, but at the time he was flattered by her attention. He mentioned that she was always checking his phone and getting upset if he didn't respond to text right away. We were actually having a good conversation until Valeria walked in with two friends. Not a coincidence. Hunter later admitted she follows his location and he forgot to turn it off. She made this big show of being shocked to see us, then loudly told her friends that I just couldn't leave them alone, even after everything. Rodney was halfway out of his seat, looking ready to confront her, but I gave him a look that said, "Don't you dare." Valeria's friends were taking pictures with their phones, and I knew this would be all over social media within minutes. Hunter surprised me by actually standing up to her. He told her to stop spreading lies. He said he knew the truth now, that I'd had a crush on him, she knew about it, and went after him anyway. He knew she was never pregnant and manipulated everyone. Valeria immediately started crying, saying she couldn't believe he was taking her side after everything they'd been through. Everyone in the coffee shop was staring. Her friends glared at me like I'd caused the scene. An older woman at the next table was openly watching the whole thing like it was a TV drama. We left quickly. Hunter walked us to our car and thanked me again for telling him the truth, even though it cost me so much. He said he wasn't ready for any relationship right now, but hoped we could maybe be friends eventually. Rodney was buzzing with excitement the whole way home, saying Hunter was actually cool, and Valeria got what she deserved. I was just exhausted and dreading the fallout that would inevitably come the next day. When I got home, my parents were sitting at the kitchen table looking serious. The school had called them. Valeria's parents were threatening to file a restraining order against me, claiming I was harassing their daughter by meeting with Hunter. They'd somehow found out about the coffee shop within hours. They asked me exactly what happened, and I explained everything. How Hunter had texted me, how Valeria showed up after we were already there, how I didn't approach her at all. Dad was taking notes the whole time, his handwriting getting messier as he got more upset. My parents had another argument that night about how to handle everything. Mom wanted to be proactive and talk to Valeria's parents directly to defuse the situation. Dad thought that would make things worse and wanted to wait and see if they actually filed for a restraining order, or if it was just a threat. I could hear them from my room, their voices rising and falling as they went from discussing logical next steps to venting their frustrations. At one point, Mom started crying, saying she just wanted her happy daughter back. That made me feel horrible. The next morning at school, someone had taped a pregnancy test to my locker. It was negative, with a note that said, "Unlike some people, I'm not a liar." A teacher saw it and took it down before most people arrived, but a few early students definitely saw it. The teacher asked if I knew who did it, but of course I had no proof. At lunch, I tried sitting with a group of girls I'm friendly with but not close to. They didn't tell me to leave, but they suddenly became very interested in their phones and stopped talking. After 5 minutes of excruciating silence, I made an excuse about forgetting something in my locker and left. The worst part is, I'm starting to question myself. Was sending those screenshots the right thing to do? Should I have found another way to tell Hunter? Should I have just minded my own business and let him figure it out eventually? Dad says I did what anyone would do when faced with such a massive lie. Mom says she understands why I did it, but wishes I'd handled it differently. I still don't know if I did the right thing. Was it worth it? Hunter knows the truth now, but my life is a complete disaster. My family is stressed and my last year of high school is ruined by this mess. If I could go back, would I still send those screenshots to Hunter? I honestly don't know, but I'm so tired of being the villain in someone else's story. For those who asked, no, I haven't tried talking to Valeria directly since this all happened. With legal threats being thrown around, I don't think that would help anything. Part of me wants to ask her why she did all this, but another part knows there's probably no answer that would satisfy me or make any of this make sense. I'll update if anything major changes. Right now, I'm just trying to survive each day and focus on graduating. All I want is to go somewhere no one knows this story, where I can start fresh without being that crazy stalker girl, or whatever label they've stuck on me. Thanks for reading all this. It helps to know someone is listening, even if you're all strangers on the internet. Final update. It's been a month since my last update. Sorry for disappearing. I needed time to process everything before writing again. Thanks for all the supportive messages. The Monday after my last post was one of the worst days yet. I walked into school to find people staring at their phones and then looking up at me. Turns out Valeria's friends had posted photos from the coffee shop confrontation with a completely twisted version of what happened. According to their posts, I had ambushed Valeria, and Hunter had defended me out of pity. There were comments calling me pathetic, psycho, stalker, you name it. I almost turned around and went home, but I knew that would just make things worse. Instead, I put my headphones on, blasted music, and pretended I couldn't hear the whispers as I walked to my locker. That's when I found the note, just the word liar in big letters taped to my locker. I showed it to the counselor, who basically shrugged and said there was nothing she could do without knowing who put it there. She suggested I was focusing too much on the negative and should move forward. In history class, Ms. Parker assigned group projects, and no one would make eye contact with me when she asked us to form groups. She ended up having to assign me to a group, and they all looked like they'd been sentenced to community service. During lunch, I hid in the library. The librarian, Mrs. Gonzalez, has always been nice to me. She pretended not to notice I was eating a sandwich behind a book, which is against the rules, and even recommended a novel she thought I'd like. It was a small kindness that meant more than she probably realized. That same day, I got called to the principal's office. Valeria's parents filed an official complaint against me for harassment and bullying. They wanted more punishment beyond my suspension. They claimed I was still spreading rumors and had orchestrated the coffee shop thing to humiliate her. Principal Matthews seemed so done with the whole situation. He barely looked at me while explaining the complaint. He told me without proof of who left the note, he couldn't do anything about that, but any more incidents with Valeria would have serious consequences. When I tried explaining my side, he cut me off and said he'd heard enough from both sides. I left his office feeling like I might throw up. I went straight to the bathroom and called Mom, crying. She came right away and demanded to see the principal. I could hear her yelling through the door. When she came out, she looked mad but satisfied. In the car, she told me she'd made it clear if the school punished me again without doing anything about the harassment I was getting, we'd be looking at legal options. I didn't tell her that made me even more nervous. The last thing I wanted was to become the girl whose mom sued the school. That would just make the target on my back even bigger. That night, we had this family meeting in the living room. Dad made it official by turning off the TV and making Rodney put his phone away. They said they were worried about how this was affecting all of us. Mom admitted she wasn't sleeping. Dad said he was distracted at work. Mom asked what I wanted to do. Keep fighting, switch schools, or something else. I honestly didn't know. Mom and Dad agreed to give me time to think about it. They wouldn't make any decisions without my input. The next day at school, I kept my head down and tried to be invisible. It mostly worked until gym class, when we had to choose teams for volleyball. I was the last person picked, and even then, the team captain rolled her eyes like she was being forced to take me. During the game, no one would pass to me, even when I was in the best position. I pretended not to care, but it was humiliating. After school, I had therapy with Dr. Landry. I finally told her the whole truth about everything, including finding the pregnancy information on Yael's computer. I was afraid she'd judge me, but she just listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said something that actually helped. You're not responsible for other people's lies, only for how you respond to them. That weekend, my parents took us to visit my grandparents in the next town over. It was actually a relief to be somewhere different, with people who didn't know about any of the drama. Grandma fussed over how thin I looked and kept trying to feed me, while Grandpa taught Rodney some card tricks. For a few hours, things felt almost normal. Sunday night, Hunter texted me asking how I was doing. We ended up texting for hours. He told me more about his relationship with Valeria, how controlling she'd been, checking his phone constantly, getting upset if he spent time with friends without her. He said the pregnancy lie was the most extreme thing, but looking back, he could see she'd been manipulating him all along. He apologized again for believing her lies about me, and for not standing up sooner. He seemed genuinely remorseful. which helped heal some of the hurt. We agreed to be cautious but maybe try being friends. He suggested we could study together sometime, somewhere off campus to avoid drama. Monday morning, I felt slightly better about things. Having Hunter believe me and apologize made a difference, even if the rest of the school still thought I was crazy. But when I got to first period, I noticed people looking at their phones and then at me again. My stomach dropped. Someone had created a fake profile using my name and picture on a dating app. The profile said I was looking for pregnancy roleplay and other disgusting stuff. Screenshots were circulating all over school. I wanted to die of embarrassment. I went straight to the counselor's office, but she was with another student. The secretary took one look at my face and let me wait in the empty conference room instead of the main office where everyone could see me crying. When I finally saw Ms. Barnes, I showed her the screenshots. She looked uncomfortable but said since it was created outside of school, there wasn't much they could do. I asked if they could at least make an announcement that it wasn't me, but she said that would just draw more attention to it. I called Mom from the office and she came to pick me up. I couldn't face the rest of the day with everyone thinking I'd created that profile. In the car, Mom was furious. She wanted to go straight to Valeria's house and confront her parents, but I begged her not to. That would just make everything worse. Instead, we went home and reported the fake profile to the dating app. They said they'd investigate, but who knows how long that would take. Dad came home early when Mom called him, and they spent the evening making calls. To the lawyer friend, to the school board, even to the local police to see if this qualified as identity theft or harassment. The police officer they spoke to wasn't very helpful. He said unless there were specific threats, it was a school issue, not a criminal one. Dad was frustrated, but Mom pointed out that involving police would just escalate everything even more. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining everyone at school looking at those screenshots, thinking that was really me. Around 2 a.m., I went downstairs for some water and found Dad still up, researching cyber harassment laws on his laptop. He looked so tired but determined. It made me feel both loved and guilty for causing so much trouble. The next morning, I forced myself to go back to school. Mom offered to let me stay home, but I knew hiding would just make the rumors worse. I put on my most confident outfit, black jeans, boots, and the denim jacket I always get compliments on, like armor. In English, Mr. Benson paired us for peer editing, and everyone shifted anxiously when he called my name. He ended up partnering me with Jane, a quiet girl who usually sits in the back. To my surprise, Jane was actually normal with me. She didn't act weird or avoid eye contact, she just asked about my essay and gave thoughtful feedback. When class ended, she mentioned she'd seen the fake profile and knew it wasn't really me because the writing style was completely different. It was such a small thing, but knowing even one person didn't believe the worst about me felt huge. At lunch, I was heading to the library again when Hunter texted asking if I wanted to meet in the music practice rooms. They're small, soundproofed rooms where band kids practice, but they're usually empty during lunch. I agreed, even though I was nervous about being seen with him. We sat on the floor, sharing his earbuds, listening to a new album he thought I'd like. We didn't talk much about the drama, which was a relief. It was just 30 minutes of normal teenage stuff. Music, complaining about homework, talking about movies. When the bell rang, he checked the hallway before we left and we went in opposite directions. That weekend, Hunter asked if I wanted to go hiking at the state park with him and his cousin who was visiting from college. It wasn't exactly a date, but it was a chance to hang out away from school drama. Mom was hesitant but agreed after I promised to keep my phone on and text her every hour. The hike was exactly what I needed. Fresh air, physical activity, and conversation that had nothing to do with high school nonsense. Hunter's cousin Matt was cool and treated me normally since he didn't know anything about the drama. For a few hours, I remembered what it felt like to just be a regular teenager. When Hunter dropped me off, he awkwardly asked if I might want to go to a movie sometime, just the two of us. I said yes before I could overthink it. He looked relieved and smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in weeks. Monday at school, things took another turn. The fake dating profile had been taken down, but now there were rumors that I was secretly dating Hunter. Someone had seen us at the state park and jumped to conclusions. By third period, Valeria had heard about it. She cornered me in the bathroom between classes. For a minute, I thought she might actually hit me, she looked so angry. Instead, she just stared at me and said I would regret trying to steal her boyfriend. I pointed out that he wasn't her boyfriend anymore, and she wasn't pregnant either. Her face got all blotchy, and she stormed out without washing her hands. At lunch, I told Hunter about the bathroom confrontation. He looked worried and suggested maybe we should cool things off for a while. I felt disappointed but understood his reasoning. The last thing either of us needed was more drama. When I got home, Valeria had posted another vague Instagram about girls who don't respect relationships and karma coming for liars. She didn't tag me, but everyone knew who she meant. The comments were full of her friends posting supportive messages and snake emojis. I decided to delete Instagram from my phone again. I didn't need to see that toxic stuff. The next morning, someone had written boyfriend stealer on my locker in Sharpie. The janitor tried to clean it off, but you could still see the ghost of the words. Principal saw it and finally seemed to take things more seriously. He called me to his office and asked if I knew who might have done it. I said I had my suspicions, but no proof. He surprised me by saying they would review the hallway security footage. After school, Hunter texted to check in. Despite his suggestion to cool things off, he still wanted to make sure I was okay after the locker incident. We ended up talking on the phone for an hour that night. He told me Valeria had been texting him constantly, sometimes angry, sometimes apologizing, sometimes threatening to tell everyone he pressured her into faking the pregnancy. He finally blocked her number. The next day at school, I was called back to Principal Matthews' office. To my shock, Valeria was there too, looking sullen. The principal informed us that the security footage showed Valeria writing on my locker. She was being given in-school suspension for vandalism and harassment. Valeria didn't even try to deny it. She just glared at me like this was somehow my fault. Principal warned us both that any further incidents would result in more serious consequences. He also mentioned that my previous suspension was being reviewed in light of new information. I left his office feeling vindicated but also nervous about potential backlash. If Valeria was angry before, she would be furious now. But at least the school was finally taking action instead of dismissing everything. When I told my parents about the suspension, they were cautiously optimistic. Dad said it was about time the school did something, while Mom worried it would just make Valeria more determined to retaliate. The next few days were strangely quiet. Valeria was in-school suspension, and without her actively stirring things up, the drama seemed to die down a bit. People still whispered sometimes, but it felt less intense. Jane and I worked on our English project together, and Hunter and I continued our secret lunch meetings in the practice rooms. On Friday, Hunter officially asked me to go to a movie with him on Saturday. Not as friends, but as a date. I said yes, even though I was nervous about how people would react. We agreed to go to a theater in the next town over to avoid running into anyone from school. The date was both wonderful and awkward. We were both so nervous that we barely talked during the first half of the movie. But afterward, over pizza, the conversation finally started flowing. We talked about everything. Our families, our plans after graduation, our favorite music. It felt normal and nice. He held my hand as we walked back to his car, and I didn't even worry about who might see us. When he dropped me off, we sat in his car talking for another hour. He apologized again for believing Valeria's lies and explained how manipulative she had been throughout their relationship. When he finally kissed me goodnight, it felt like the first good thing to happen in months. Of course, by Monday morning, someone had spotted us at the pizza place and word had spread. The whispers started again as soon as I walked into school. In the bathroom, I overheard two girls discussing whether I had stolen Hunter from Valeria, or if he was just using me to make her jealous. Neither considered that maybe we actually liked each other. Valeria was back from suspension and clearly knew about the date. She walked past me in the hallway and deliberately bumped my shoulder hard enough to make me drop my books. She didn't say anything, just gave me a cold look and kept walking. At lunch, Jane waved me over to her table. As I sat down, she quietly warned me that Valeria and her friends were planning something. She didn't know what exactly, but she'd overheard them talking about teaching me a lesson. I thanked her for the warning and tried to act normal through lunch, but inside I was panicking. After school, I told Hunter about Jane's warning. He looked worried and offered to drive me home. As we walked to the parking lot, we saw Valeria and 3 of her friends waiting by my usual route. Hunter put his arm around my shoulders and walked confidently past them. They didn't do anything except glare, but it was intimidating nonetheless. In the car, Hunter suggested we should just go public with our relationship. He argued that sneaking around made it seem like we had something to hide, which just fed into Valeria's narrative. I was scared of the backlash, but agreed it might be better than constantly looking over our shoulders. The next day, we walked into school together, not hiding the fact that we were now a couple. Valeria's reaction was exactly what I expected. By lunch, she had posted a long, dramatic Instagram story. She didn't name names, but included enough details that everyone knew who she meant. Her friends were shooting daggers at us in the cafeteria. That weekend, Hunter and I went to the mall together, openly as a couple. We ran into a few people from school, but most just nodded and went about their business. Someone took a picture of us, probably to send to her, but we decided not to care. My parents have relaxed a little as things have improved. Mom still checks in more than she used to, but she's not hovering constantly. Dad has been teaching me to drive his car on weekends, which gives us time to talk without directly discussing all the drama. Yesterday was the last day of school before break. As I was cleaning out my locker, Tiffany walked by with some other girls. Instead of the usual dirty looks, she just nodded. Summer starts tomorrow. I'm focusing on my driving test, getting ready for college applications, and trying to rebuild my life. My family is closer now. I know who my real friends are. Not many, but that's okay. And I've learned more about myself than I wanted to. If anyone's in a similar situation, my only advice is to find at least one person who believes you and remember that high school, even though it feels like your whole world right now, is temporary. The people who matter will eventually see the truth. Thanks for reading to my mess of a story. It helped more than you know.